Hi, everyone. If you are a family or an individual who is financially displaced by COVID-19, there's an opportunity for you through a 1K project to get $1,000 for 3 months. This project has supported 250 families since April when it started. So today we're going to talk to the founder of 1K Project, who also happens to be a venture capitalist. So welcome to VC Alex Iskold. He is the founder and managing partner of 2048 VC, but the most important thing, he's the founder of 1K Project. Super excited to welcome you, Alex.
Thank you for having me, Gayatri. I'm super pumped to speak with you, and also huge thank you for all the help and your support for the project.
No problem at all. We are honored to be a part of this. So I'm going to ask you the very first question. When COVID-19 hit, a lot of people panicked, but you decided to do something about it. Tell me, what was your mindset when COVID-19 hit, and how did you decide to make that change?
Yeah, I mean, back in April, it started to become very clear that the impact is going to be absolutely devastating. And I realized that a lot of people, specifically a different kind of entrepreneurs, people who work for small businesses, restaurants, hairstylists, nannies, dry cleaners, they're going to have really hard time. And it became very clear that they're not going to get the help they need fast enough. So the light bulb moment was, hey, what if we could just, orchestrate a system where people can help other people, families can help other families across the country. And that was really sort of the light bulb moment and the origin story of the project.
Wow, I love this. And so Andrew Yang tweeted about 1K projects, Forbes reported about 1K project. So you have impacted so many lives. So tell us a little bit about the stories.
Absolutely. I mean, just to go back to, origin, and then I'll tell you the stories of these families. We were a group of about 40 different volunteers, and my co-founder, Minda Bruce, has been amazing partner for me in this journey. And, we've early on decided that we want to build a system where we can use a network of trusted connections to identify families in need. So when we started, we said, listen, how can we identify families in Boston that are hurting? Like, I'm not there, but luckily I'm connected to people like you, and you have connections in that ecosystem. And so we said that we can use our network of trusted connections to get access to these families who are really in need, and to get people around us to nominate them. So whether they're friends or family members, or they are owners of the restaurants or salons, or they may be startups who work with small businesses. So the whole system is really based on referrals and nominations. And then in terms of the stories, I mean, the last 6 weeks, we've been drinking from the fire hose of hurt. I mean, American families, millions of them, are really hurting because of the pandemic. And these are families who have been working really hard to keep the food on the table and roofs over their heads. And, they simply are, basically, they have no savings, and they're not prepared for these kinds of catastrophes. So when we hear these stories, I mean, the common theme is, I've been working really hard to support my children. I'm a single mother, or we are a family with lots of dependents, or we've got these medical issues, and we were working really hard before the pandemic. And then when pandemic hit, we lost our jobs, or we were furloughed, and our income is substantially reduced. We can't, first and foremost, put food on the table. We cannot pay rent and other basics. These are incredibly painful stories. And so it's a privilege for us to be able to help. And, the families that we do help, you can see, a lot of the thank you notes on the website that we've been posting. It's, they consider this a miracle, and it truly is, the ability to connect with a sponsor and be able to support these families. Like, we're so lucky to be able to be that connection.
That's great. I remember that when you talked about 1K Project, I shared this one of my friend at Harvard, and she was able to help one family, actually who happened to be a part of our family member, and she was immediately able to access $1,000 for 3 months. And that's actually a huge success story, because there's always a gap. And this project gives an immediate access to the money. So I think that's a bridge that you guys have created, which is enormous. I feel like that. Did you guys get that kind of response when you were talking to so many families and making those impacts?
Yeah, I think, as I said, the families are really hurting, but I think we also heard from sponsors that they really enjoy ability to give directly. And this is something that distinguishes our project from a lot of other efforts. You could obviously donate to food banks, frontline workers, and many other efforts, but this allows you to say, hey, my family directly helped this other family. And it's really meaningful. Whenever a connection happens, we actually create a digital keepsake with a map of the United States, where we light up the states where the family's from and sponsors from. And then we print the chain of connections, how sort of like the family's known to the project and who the sponsor is, all anonymized, just the first names. But we want people to remember this because it's such a devastation, and the fact that sponsors are helping and families receive help is pretty incredible.
That's great. But since you're in SheVC, I'm going to divert a little bit and talk a little bit about your fund. So you decided to start your own fund, 2048 VC. Congratulations on that. Tell us a little bit about your past experience as a serial entrepreneur and how it helped you to be a fund manager.
Absolutely. Yeah, my background is computer science, and I'm an engineer by training. I started my career as an engineer, and then I founded two startups. One was an exit to IBM. Second one was a failure. And after that, I've joined Techstars as a managing director, spent 5 years investing in startups, was able to back over 100 companies. And the inception and sort of the light bulb moment for 2048 Ventures was the idea to create an institutional pre-seed firm that can use our superpowers in identifying and getting behind founders at the absolute earliest stage to be the first check investor in companies that are differentiated through technology. And I think my superpower as an investor is ability to obviously read people, connect with them, but also to understand how these products work, how founders envision them, and to envision future together with these founders.
Great. When you talk about a superpower, I'm definitely going to ask you this question, is like, as a first time, or you can say as an emerging fund manager, what are the pain points when you're raising money? I know a lot of our subscribers or viewers are partners in VC funds, and they're thinking of becoming an emerging fund manager. So what are the pain points that you have received or you have gained?
Look, I'll answer like from multiple angles. First of all, we were incredibly lucky to raise the fund. Our first fund is a $27 million vehicle. We've raised it pretty quickly, and our message really resonated with LPs.
Amazing.
The challenge is that the job is really hard, very multifaceted, incredibly difficult to know whether you're any good at it, and is really like 3 or 4 jobs in one. Between being exceptional at finding deals to being incredible at managing companies, getting them follow-on capital, to managing fund, which is A, super boring, B, really complicated. And then we just didn't even talk about like raising capital, which is very complex because depending on the size of the fund,
yes,
your LP makeup changes.
Oh yeah.
And so I think what it takes is effectively, first of all, deep conviction that you were meant to do it. That's what's been driving me, that this is my purpose and I should be doing this, but also being authentic, telling the truth, not having multiple versions of yourself, because if you do, then that just creates so much more complexity. But the job is arguably one of the most thrilling jobs you can have, but also one of the most difficult.
Yes, that's true. Very fulfilling, but at the same time, you're chasing returns, which is very power law driven. So I was talking to an institutional LP yesterday, and they said, I'm not going to invest in someone just by, looking at them through the Zoom meeting. So my $1 million question to you is that, are you investing during COVID-19, and are you going to invest through Zoom meeting?
Yes to both.
Great.
Look, I mean, I am a big fan. I mean, I've been a massive champion of video in general in venture. I don't think there's enough video. I'm a massive champion of replacing decks with video pitches, and been championing this since 2015. That said, I do think there is an extra challenge and complexity. We're still physical humans, despite the fact that we're rapidly digitizing ourselves.
Yeah.
There's something about meeting somebody in person. Now, I think it would be inexcusable for me at my stage to say that I can't do a pre-seed investment without meeting a founder. I mean, I should be able to do that, and we have done that, and we will continue to do it. My preference is to meet somebody in person, but we're comfortable investing, and we're continuing to invest. We're continuing to support our companies. We're about 5 quarters into a 3-year fund, so we've got a lot of cash to deploy, and we are definitely thinking about, on one hand, you want to be investing in companies that are going to be legendary and going to be great 7-10 years from now. At the same time, you need to be thoughtful about how are they going to be capitalized over the next 12 to 36 months, given the environment. So when we think about things that we invest, this is definitely factored in.
Great. So investing, as a venture capitalist, is sometimes you are looking at various patterns, but at some time it's like some of the patterns are very non-consensus among partners. So tell us some of the investments that you have done through 2048 VC.
Of course. I mean, so we're not a consensus-driven firm, meaning like we make independent decisions. In general, I think it's really hard to do consensus investing in, like at our stage. We are so lucky to be able to get involved with over 20 different startups to date, and some of our earlier investments, that I think are going to become pretty legendary in coming years and hopefully next decade. I'll mention a few companies. So one of our earliest investments was a company called Suna, based in Denver and Minneapolis. They are helping brands create fast casual video. And that company is absolutely incredible. One of the top CEOs I've ever had privilege to be working with. She brings incredible amount of ingenuity and innovation and creative thinking to the business. So all around pleasure to work with her. We also invested in a company called Airspace Link, which provides infrastructure for last mile drone delivery and an API that commercial drones will be using, and specifically going to be so relevant as we move into post-pandemic world, and there's going to be more touchless deliveries. So very excited about that investment. I've also been spending a lot of time in biotech and genomics. So we backed a company called Nplex, which is a spinoff from McGill, focused on effectively creating a parallel processor for protein sequencing, and also invested in a company in New York called Humane Genomics, which I mean is super futuristic. They're basically using 3D printing techniques to create synthetic viruses that can fight cancer cells. So you can kind of see a range of investments that we have, and lots of great companies. All of them are very early, but what I think is an underlying theme for our founders is, incredible humans, super visionary, very committed to building, really epic, long-term lasting businesses.
Great. So going back to that, you are an early stage investor, super early stage investor. And especially in a market like this, where there's a pandemic going on, there are a lot of false positives. There are a lot of true positives. And obviously, there will be change in social behavior that can lead to a change in market behavior. So, and venture capital is all about disciplined investment and, repeatability, consistency. So what are your thought process or investment theses when you're looking at those companies? And how do you identify a champion?
So I don't believe in being strictly thematic in pre-seed, because I think you're ultimately driven by the founders. And if you meet a founder that you have to back, you need to write a check. But at the same time, I've been trying to be deliberate about buckets of investments that I want to make. And what I feel is that the things and the themes that I want to invest in, and that I've written about actually before the pandemic started, still stay true. So the buckets that I've identified, number one is genomics and bio, which I think with what's happening is only going to get accelerated. We will need to get to the world where we can create real-time vaccines. So when you think about where we are today, we're very far off from that world. And so the amount of innovation and especially exciting trend of software eating the world in bio is going to create, next generation giant tech companies. Some of them are going to be existing pharma companies. Some of them are going to be brand new biotech companies. But I'm super pumped about genomics and bio and the opportunities in that space. I have been a big advocate and a champion of video as a medium. I've written extensively about it. And so in a way, pandemic is accelerating our move to more video. So I think video is becoming more acceptable replacement for in-person interactions. And so I think there's going to be amazing opportunities around that. I've written about, businesses that regardless of the times are going to be lasting and enduring, and they're effectively formulaic around marketplaces and SaaS. So marketplaces with natural network effects, things that are naturally networks, are going to continue to be attractive businesses. So they're not specific verticals, but more like business models that spawn different verticals. And these are sort of the patterns that a good and trained investor should be recognizing in any market. And so those are the things that I'm on the lookout for, but really continue to be, anytime when I meet new company, I try to basically have beginner's mind and be very open-minded about the spaces, the types of people we invest, the combinations of the founders, because I feel like that's what really, can create alpha.
Great. I like that. I especially like what you said, that the tech opportunities that has use cases in one verticals and can translate into other verticals. Now, if an entrepreneur is trying to pitch you, and I saw you have already tweeted multiple times that tweet me with your video and your pitch deck. What are the stop signs if an entrepreneur is pitching you and in the investor meetings? What are the stop signs for you that you don't want to invest in that company? And also, what are the idiosyncratic risks that you can bypass?
I've written extensively about this, but the turnoffs are always, like if you meet a founder who is know-it-all, or a founder who doesn't seem to have empathy, or, a founder who, can't put together an elegant pitch, right? Like there's a bunch of things that you sort of can gather from a very quick conversation. And sometimes it's difficult to tell the founders what's wrong exactly. The things that founders should take no offense in is when venture capitalists say, what, I don't really believe this is big enough opportunity. I think a lot of founders are offended. I think this is a two-sided coin. A lot of times investors are wrong about this and small things become big, but at the same time, founders need to understand that in order to make money in venture, the opportunity needs to be big. So there's many anti-patterns, and the reality is we end up passing on most deals. So it's much more interesting for me to also dig in on like what makes an exceptional founder. And I think it's one of those things that you can't really quantify and compute, but you
Right.
know it when you meet them.
Yeah, very true. You talked about empathy, and you also have written a blog about how to overcome your vices. And that is something I think we kind of touch based upon it. I would love to say that your blog has championed a lot of entrepreneurs and others who is like, okay, if I am into something and that's not good for me, how can I come out of it? And we also discussed that many entrepreneurs, they feel like everybody's fundraising except me. They're as if they're working in a silo. And tell us a little bit about your mindset and why you decided to talk about this openly.
I mean, I think that in general, my blog is, the purpose of it is just to share my experiences and empower founders with knowledge. And I feel
Yeah.
like this is sort of a litmus test. If you don't absorb what's out there, it's kind of, you're already failing the test. But specifically on self-care, I think it's a topic that doesn't get enough attention. We talk about
Yes.
mental health more than we talk about self-care. And I think both are really important topics. And I think self-care is absolutely critical for founders, venture capitalists, and anybody who is in a very intense job. And the reason that I decided to share is because I wanted founders to learn through my failures and my experiences and just kind of open up, because I feel that a lot of founders are struggling with, similar things. Like people in startups, they drink a lot of alcohol, and then, it's hard to exercise. People overeat, and
Oh yeah.
before you know it, you get to this state where you are not your best for your family, startups, and like for yourself first and foremost. And I think that just taking a step back to really understand how you can be your very best you is important. And I think a lot of times you will make better decisions, you'll be happier human, and I think you'll be more successful.
Amazing. My last question to you, what is the future of 1K project, and how does other VCs and entrepreneurs, they can help you out?
Amazing. I mean, I wish I could just tell you, like, we're no longer relevant, all the problems are solved, but I think that would be a lie. I think we're just in the beginning of this pandemic and in the beginning of understanding the impact. So we're closing in on funding 250 families. We've managed to distribute close to $800,000 of sponsor dollars, which is unimaginable that this happened in just like 6 weeks. It's pretty incredible, and that's all happening organically through the network. So, we are actively thinking about how can we take to the next level? What is its place in the world? More to come on that in coming weeks. In the way that people can get involved is super simple. Number one, if you know a family who is hurting, please nominate them for the project. That's the best way to get involved. If you're in a position to sponsor a family, please consider doing that. If you can't sponsor the family by yourself, please consider doing it as part of the group. You can text 1K project number that's on our website, and you can donate anything above $100. And then if you want to get deeper and help us more, do what Gayatri did, which is raise her hand and started helping become part of our community and light up your network to help more families in need.
That's great. And if anybody wants to reach out to you, what's the best contact number? Your email address?
You can either tweet at me at Alex Iskold, Iskold, or you can email me at alex@2048, that's 2048.vc.
That's great. Thank you, Alex, for your time. We're so honored, and we want to see this 1K project spread, help, and support many families. Thank you.
And thank you, Gayatri. Thanks for having me, and thanks for all your help.